Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Ablaze, My Sorrow, Among Ashes and Monoliths, out February 12th on Black Lion Records. This album has 12 tracks, 47 minutes in length, and this is the band's 5th full-length studio album. These guys are from Sweden. They're a Swedish melodic death metal band. They've been around for a very long time, but with this record they're offering a few new looks to the fans. Perhaps the most obvious one is the fact that they have a brand new lead singer in Jonas Ud, and his voice is absolutely magnificent and matches this record to perfection. It has this really raspy tone, and the way it comes across, it matches the overall grittiness that this record has as far as the soundscape is concerned. So the two just blend in one with the other and allows the album to have a lot of strength, a lot of power, to feel very raw, to feel very intense and very aggressive. Once you get into the soundscape of the album, you start to feel like there are some elements that are changing there, but those changes are very subtle. And in my opinion, they allow the album to be a lot more dynamic and a lot more fluid. They kept the core DNA of the band intact as far as the soundscape approach is concerned, and that DNA stays intact throughout the record. You could feel that it's there, it's the core, it's where they want the album to live, it's what they want the album to have as the backbone, as the support of how everything comes together, not just the sound but the structure. But they wanted to give the album these changes in order to make it more fluid, in order to move forward at a better tempo, at a better pace, and to still stay connected with the listener. So they changed some elements in the periphery of the soundscape. They changed a few things here, they changed a few things there, they brought them back later on into the record, they removed them from song to song. So there are some things that are coming in and out on every single track, and you feel that it's happening, you can tell that it's happening, but it doesn't impact the album in a negative way. Like I said before, it actually makes the album more dynamic, more fluid, less repetitive, because when you have a bass line that stays consistent from the first to the last track, it's very easy for a record to start to feel like it's repeating itself. The riffs start to sound very similar to each other, even though they're not exactly alike, but they have a lot of the same mechanisms, they have a lot of the same elements. So changing a few things on the periphery of the songs, on the periphery of the soundscape of the tracks, perhaps impacting more the atmosphere of the songs than the sound itself, allows the record to have songs that are similar but yet feeling fresh, new, rejuvenated with every single song that passes. Now, with all of this, there are some things that I felt that were a little bit lacking and they could have been done better in order to perhaps make this album a little bit richer. One of them is the drums. I wanted the drums to have a little bit more power, to have a little bit more presence. They're heavy throughout this record, definitely heavier in some songs than others, but overall I felt that they were a little bit subdued. I felt they were taking a back seat to how driven, how powerful, how in your face the guitars sound throughout the whole record. And at times, the song almost called for it, almost asked for it. They wanted the drums to be a little bit heavier, to have a little bit more presence, to jump into the forefront, even if it's just for a few seconds or a few portions of a given track, and that never really happened. There are some songs where you start to see the heaviness of the drums being present, but they're still in the back seat. They're still not moving to the forefront. They're still not clearing the path for then the guitars to come on top of it and dictate the direction of the songs. This is a record from a soundscape perspective is really dictated by where the guitars are going. And then when you get into the guitars, I felt that at times they lacked a little bit of warmth. They were not as rich as I would like them to be. So this impacts the overall sound. It makes the sound feel a little bit deflated. It doesn't expand the quality. It doesn't expand the overall wall of sound that comes at the listener. So this is a record that feels very driven in its approach. It permeates from song to song, but at the same time it dissipates very quickly. It needed to have a little bit more oomph. It needed to have a little bit more volume, a little bit more presence. And if you look at the two opening tracks, specifically My Sorrow, the opening song of the album, they did that on that specific track by including some symphonic elements. The symphonic elements in My Sorrow allow the song to gain volume, to gain presence, to become more robust. So it's a song that opens up the record and it feels full. You feel like you're getting the full essence of that track and the band with that song. And you get the same with the following two tracks. But then as the album starts to move along and as they start to remove some of the elements and adding new elements in, you start to feel like that air is coming out of the balloon and the sound is becoming more driven, more narrow, and not as rich, not as warm, not as wide. And that impacts the overall experience of this record. Now, as far as songs are concerned, I want to start off with Grit. It starts off with great direction, great purpose. A song that lets you know from the beginning, this is where you are, but this is exactly where we're taking you. The guitars are very driven, very gritty, very penetrating, and you get the same style with the vocals. The vocals have that grittiness in them, so the two elements kind of balance each other out to perfection. It's a song that balances also melody with heaviness. The vocals allow the track to be a little bit more consistent and allow the guitars to be a little bit more dynamic and change between that heaviness and that melody. But the track stays composed, it stays cohesive because the vocals are really the glue that are holding everything together. I love the track, I love the darkness that this song has, specifically on the more melodic portions of the song. The guitars almost take you into this very dark place, but in a very subtle kind of way, but you feel like you're there. You're just not really sure if you are actually there. So I love the sound that the guitars have. I love the dynamic mechanisms changing between melody and heaviness and then allowing the vocals to stay consistent all the way through. Next, At the Graves of Giants. I love this song, a song that moves up and down, has great dynamic mechanisms. It's a really interesting track. It changes very slightly, but it allows the song to still have ups and downs as you move through it, and that is the difference that you're going to get between the verses and the chorus. I like the verses. They're a little bit more driven, they're a little bit more dynamic. They push you forward at a faster tempo, and then the song pauses ever so slightly in the chorus, becoming a little bit more melodic before re-engaging itself with the next verse and pushing it forward once again. So this is a song that it's very powerful, it's very robust, has a very robust sound to it, but it has this up and down feel that I really enjoy, that makes the song move and feels like it's moving a lot quicker. Even when it pauses a little bit in the chorus, it never really stops. It's not a full stop, it's just a slow down, and I love that aspect of it, enough to change the eyesight of the listener. Last but not least, The Day I Die. The guitar opening on this song is absolutely killer. When you listen to this track on headphones, the sound is coming in and out. It's like waves, and I love that opening. It just creates such an expectation to what the rest of the track is going to be. And on this song, the guitars are very rich. They're not as gritty, they're not as penetrating, they're not as driven. They have more of a bass presence to it. The drums are more consistent in their sound throughout the track, allowing to create a heavier bass line, if you will, a heavier foundation. So when you put the guitars on top of it and you're not driving the sound necessarily, you're allowing the overall track to feel a little bit heavier, a little bit more methodic, and the overall sound becomes better, becomes richer, becomes fuller. The track gains volume, and that's pretty much what you're going to get from this song from beginning to the end. I love the guitar sound because I love what it does to the song. I love how rich it is on this specific track. And when you think of Swedish melodic death metal, a song like this is exactly what comes to mind. Not just from a construction perspective, but from a soundscape approach as well. This is it, guys. Ablaze My Sorrow Among Ashes and Monoliths. Once again, out February 12th on Black Lion Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.